Okay, let's talk about it because it has been all over social media. Russell Wilson taking a shot at Sean Payton. But Moose, Sean took a shot at Russ first. Not really. We're going to talk about it in today's episode of the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. But before we get into that, let me just tell, this is what Russell Wilson had to say about Sean Payton. Classless, but not surprised. Didn't realize you were still bounty hunting after 15 plus years through the media. Hashtag let's ride. It just quite literally makes me want to gag. Here's what I got to say to Russ. First of all, dude, shut the F up. You're a backup quarterback. You didn't get re-signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. You go to New York and you get benched 3 games in for frickin' Jackson Dart, who looks like the future of the franchise. You're salty. It's clear. And if we go through every single bit of information that we know about this Twitter beef, we can easily tell Sean Payton was not taking a shot at Russell Wilson, which is why I support my head coach. And if you support Sean Payton, like today's video, because we're going to break down every last bit of information surrounding this beef that he's got with Russell Wilson. So if we go back to after the New York Giants football game, after Denver comes back with this miraculous 33 points in the fourth quarter, Sean Payton gets asked about Jackson Dart. And here's what he specifically had to say. Now, mind you, he did not get asked about Russell Wilson. He got asked about Jackson Dart. And he said they found a spark with that quarterback. I was talking to John Mara not too long ago, and I said, we were hoping that change would have happened long after our game. Nowhere in this is this about Russell Wilson. Well, Moose, it was an indirect dig. No, it wasn't. If you listen back to what Sean Payton said, he was asked about Jackson Dart. He said this with sincerity. He recognizes that Dart is going to be a good player. And why wouldn't he? In his 4 starts that he's had in the 2025 season, he has been exceptional. He's played in a total of 6 games, started 4. With those starts, 60% completion percentage. Okay, that's a little bit low. But this is a baller, dude. 791 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 picks, and a passer rating right at 90 for a kid that has only started 4 total games in the NFL. The translation to all of this, by the way, is that Russ is just salty. He's salty because he got benched for a rookie after another terrible start to the season. He's just in his field. Think about this out loud really quick for me. Russell Wilson goes in to Mile High again, not playing. They take a commanding lead. They lose in dramatic fashion. And then Sean Payton has glowing things to say about not only his current quarterback, Bo Nix, but great things to say about Jackson Dart. It just sounds like Russell Wilson was looking for any excuse to be pissed off. And like I said, is Sean Payton a perfect human being? Is he a perfect coach? Of course not. Of course not. He's got faults that nobody can dispute. Not just on the field, but off the field. He can be a little bit glib. He can be a little bit blunt. He can be a little bit coarse. But this was not a shot at Russell Wilson at all. In fact, I think the splitting between Russ and Sean Payton really doesn't have anything to do as much with the off-the-field stuff as much as it does stylistically from head coach to quarterback. Heavy on Broncos was talking about how they're just so different. Payton's affinity for structured play from a quarterback fits Bo Nix's game perfectly, but it did not match Russell Wilson's style of creating with his legs and seeking out big plays. Likewise, Wilson's large personality didn't mesh with Payton's more buttoned-up approach and expectations. At one point, the duo got into an altercation on the sidelines during the game. The coach could be seen berating his quarterback. Newsflash. Sean Payton screams at Bo Nix too. It's part of the game. A head coach is supposed to yell at his quarterback and vice versa. Bo Nix also yells at Sean Payton. They're fired up. They want to win. Russ seems to be way too preoccupied with his brand. He's dangerous, right? Mr. Unlimited. Brother, Bo Nix is trying to win football games. And Sean clearly noticed that. Russ was more about Russ. Bo is about winning. And that's the difference. That's the main difference. That's why Sean doesn't like Russ. I'm fully aware that they don't like each other. I'm fully aware. But Sean is a football guy. Russ is a Russ guy. And I think also there might be a little bit of animosity because he knows that Bo is better than him. Let's just go back to Russell Wilson's time as a Denver Bronco. Started 30 games. Bo has only started 24 games. And producer Avery, we're going to sit on this for just a quick little second. Bo's got a higher completion percentage. He's on pace to beat him in yards in the first 30 games. He's almost matched and going to beat the touchdowns that Russ threw in 2 seasons. And he's got less interceptions. Everything about this screams that Bo Nix is better than Russell Wilson. Period. And Russ knows that. If Russ was a good quarterback still, Jackson Dart wouldn't be playing. He would not have been let go by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And quite frankly, if Russ was a good quarterback, he would not have gotten traded away, gotten moved on from the Denver Broncos. Period. Bo is just a better quarterback than Russell Wilson. There doesn't need to be anything else said about this. Nothing. Russ is salty. Russ is pissed. Russ wanted an excuse to be angry because the Giants lost in dramatic fashion. Do you think if the Giants won that football game, he would have said anything? Probably not. So I'm going to ask you really quick, who's at fault for this social media beef? If you think it was Russ, type your R's. If it was Payton, type your P's. Look, I don't want to say it was necessarily anybody's fault. I don't think Sean Payton meant anything by it. Could he have worded that differently? Sure, he could have. But Sean Payton has never been the type to give presidential answers. He just speaks what's on his mind. And speaking of speaking what's on his mind, Sean Payton did hint, by the way, now to get back to a little bit of current day Broncos football, Sean Payton hinted at some changes coming. In fact, he called out, not some players directly, but definitely let some players know that they've got to step up or else. Now, before we get into that, I got to tell you about my friends over at Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. You don't want to miss any of the excitement this football season on Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. Did you know you can now follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in just one click, whether it is a friend, a celebrity partner, like producer Avery on the ones and twos, or just someone whose picks you like. Hit that follow button and check out every lineup they create in the brand new feed tab only on Prize Picks. All you got to do, very simply put, you download the Prize Picks app. You use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that is going to be in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, it is good to be right. So Sean Payton was asked after these comments about kind of the Broncos' woes on offense. And here's where I will push back a little bit. Sean Payton really didn't look inwardly. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But he did hint at players losing playing time. In fact, specifically, here's what he said. I think it starts with who. Who is it that we're asking to do certain things? There may be some guys whose playing time goes up and some might begin to diminish. All right, so let's just kind of take this one step at a time. I'm not so sure this is necessarily the right thing to say. And like I said, Sean Payton's not a perfect guy. I disagree with this. I think it starts at the drawing board. I think as a head coach, I am going to go to my offensive staff, and I am going to say, how do we find the right execution? It starts with me. Am I not drawing up the plays that you guys want played? Am I not doing things from a game managing perspective, from a play calling perspective, that is putting us in the best situation to win? You can't always just look at your players and go, well, you're not executing. That's part of it, sure. It's not entirely on Sean. It's not entirely on Bo. It's not entirely on the wide receivers or the offensive line. It's the offense as a whole. It is a unit. It is a well-oiled machine that if one part isn't doing its job, the whole operation falls apart. So, how do we know that there's a problem going on with the Broncos offense? Well, the statistics, they prove it. Their red zone touchdown percentage, 10.6%. So every time they enter an opposing red zone, how often are they scoring a touchdown? 10.6%, that's 23rd in the NFL. Red zone touchdowns, they only have 7 so far in 2025. That's 16th. Turnover differential is -2. That's 19th. And then this one's probably the most glaringly obvious one. Their yards per passing attempt, 27th in the NFL. They're not pushing the ball down the field. Now, part of that is Bo Nix is very inaccurate when he's throwing the ball down the field. Part of it is you're calling 30 screens a game. It's got to change, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you just bench some players or elevate some players. You've got to do that and look at yourself inwardly. I'm going to wrap up today's episode by giving you a quick little update on Dre Greenlaw and what this means for the Broncos going into the game against the Cowboys. I still can't believe that the NFL suspended Dre Greenlaw after what we clearly saw from referee Brad Allen. Excuse me. I just feel like there is a personal vendetta right now against the Denver Broncos. I do. I think there is clearly a disdain for Sean Payton, how he operates his football teams. And I just think that they looked at this and they said, nope, we're gonna punish you. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe it is a Sean Payton thing. I'm not entirely sure yet. But here's what I do know. There's going to be a big-time fire lit for the Broncos versus Cowboys. This team is going to be pumped up this Sunday. I think we see something different. I think we see something change in the Broncos offense. You're going up against one of the worst defenses in the entirety of the NFL. This is your time to really get things back on track, and I think we're going to see it. Right before I get on out of here, a reminder to hit that subscribe button. You guys have been unbelievable the last couple of weeks. We are growing at an unprecedented rate here on the channel. We're at 45,227 subscribers. We need 773 to hit 46K. Our goal by the end of the football season, which we are clearly on pace to do, is hit 50K in subs. Until next time, Broncos country, mile high salute. Be cool.